let's talk about what you and I discussed last year when I was in SOM's offices in Chicago,
Sure.
which is China's air quality crisis. And obviously, a lot's changed since then. And I think certainly there's been media coverage of what's been called China's environmental awakening, where
Yeah.
people are questioning whether the costs of rapid development are worth the benefits,
Right.
at least in the way that it's happened.
Right.
And I think that debate can apply in countries around the world, but it's certainly pretty acute in China.
Right.
So the question would be, what can designers of tall buildings, or what can tall buildings as structures, as systems, do to address China's air quality crisis?
Two things. Number one is taller building. We actually measure the air quality in China. Taller buildings actually get cleaner air. And its recent research suggests if people live in taller buildings, they tend to be living longer. And part of the reason is they're breathing slightly cleaner air in terms of particulates. So healthier environment. The second component is taller building. Actually, we look at many cities around the world. Cities that are denser tend to have lower carbon per capita. So actually, it reduces the amount of carbon emission in the buildings. So the tall building can help to create better health and potentially less carbon emission in the city per capita. So architects and engineers, we can design building with clean energy. Energy rely on the sun, rely on natural resources. The three main components is we're going to have to design city of the future that's going to address the embodied carbon, the transportation carbon, and the operating carbon. We need to strike to make those three components to be all approaching net zero.
Are there policies that you think move the needle on all three of those kinds of carbon? Because you see people designing wood structures
Yep.
to address the embodied carbon
Yep.
issue.
Yep.
You see plenty of energy efficiency measures, although there can always be more to
Yep.
address usage. Are there broad level policies that you think we should be talking about?
This is actually interesting because it's going to be change is going to be from three things: top down, bottom up, and as design professionals, we can create this beautiful sandbox that attract the neighborhood kids to go to play, and in that process, the neighborhood's changed. Now, in the top-down approach, right now we are seeing a lot of the bottom-up and the sandbox sort of thing. Top-down approach, interesting enough, we are now in Shanghai. It's probably much easier for a country like Shanghai or China, not Shanghai, a country like China to kind of do this top-down approach. In US, there's just all this political gridlock that hinder a lot of the politicians to make this bold move on the environment.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but the bold moves could still come and would still need to come from places like the United States or India, where there's equal gridlock and bureaucracy.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. But yeah, it's through all those approaches that we're going to need everything to get there because the crisis is urgent. So we're going to need top-down, bottom-up, and also as professionals, we're going to create this leadership, these beautiful sandboxes that going to change the world through attracting the next generation of kids to come play in the sandbox.
What potential do you see for green walls or sky gardens or other ways to incorporate nature into high-rises?
I mean, that's elevate to the bigger question of, in the past, we have been developing cities. It's just focused on the urban elements of what we want. We need to bring back nature as a whole into our urban environment in terms of plants, in terms of vegetation, in terms of food, the whole ecology thing. Without those elements, the cities and the urban environment cannot be very sustainable.
How do we do it? Or who's doing it well right now?
How do we do it? It's going to be another one of those changes that we are seeing more design professionals start doing urban environments with more ecology, water, and others into the cities. But it's going to happen at a bigger level of, hopefully there are also policy focus on bring the food back so we don't have to, go for long distance for food. We're going to bring it back to the city. Otherwise, it's not going to be very sustainable.
Vertical farming too, then.
Vertical farming in the whole everything, the whole holistic ecology.
Do you think people would be receptive to living by, once again, integrated that directly with nature and natural systems? Because in the beginning, it seems like cities were the opposite. They were getting away from that.
20 years ago, we used to drive in cars that has asbestos in the car, and people smoke while they're driving without a seatbelt. At that time, it was okay. Now we look back and say, wow, what were we thinking? I guess the point here is we got to have a vision of the future of what's right and just go there. And when we get there, hindsight, we're going to say, wow, look at how we travel. Change is never easy. And as Henry Ford will say, if you ask the people in 1907, what did they want? They will tell you faster horses rather than a car. But you know what? Somebody need to look at what's the right thing to do, what's the future of human beings, how to make the world better, and just get there.
With regards to sustainable design metrics, is LEED still the best benchmark, or is there a better way forward?
There are all the benchmarks we have. They are relatively weakness in there. LEED is moving towards the side of some of the weakness of all systems we have right now is on the health side and on the material side. It's amazing that the focus is on energy and water while the building is designed for human beings. So let's focus on human beings. What makes human beings thrive in that environment in terms of healthiness, in terms of connection, in terms of all those stuff? So from that standpoint, all the green building systems, they have room for improvement right now. But LEED is one of those that start addressing some of those issues.
Can we build our way out of our environmental crises?
Throughout history, you look at Roman Empire, you look at the Chinese Great War, there's certain civilizations try to build their way out of trouble. The only way you can build yourself out of trouble is, you got to develop as you build your way out of trouble, you got to build this thing that is actually generating growth, generating things for people that are the right thing to do, but at the same time has the lowest impact in environment. Otherwise, your growth, you're going to have to pay for it in the future. So there's a term in engineering, is the lowest entropy, the lowest chaos possible when you generate a higher level of order. It's only with that thinking, because physical laws do not change with time. So as we generate this higher order of living, we must minimize the chaos we are creating. To be able to humble and go back and listen to the basic laws of nature and work with it is our best bet. But as you point out correctly, that time is limited. And chances are we may be a little behind already.